Top 10 animals with amazing regenerative powers. Humans are often weak animals. If you cut your finger, you don't return it unless you have the good fortune to have a team of trained surgeons and a hospital nearby. However, you may not get it fully. But what if you can't regain your lost limbs? Yes, to some extent we can recover from wounds, but our fragile human body is nothing compared to other animals. Here are 10 animals that have the power to rejuvenate their bodies that put people to shame. 10 protected animals. Sea slugs. Sea slugs are far more interesting than their name suggests. As well as being, well, sea-dwelling slugs have a variety of talents. Some sea slugs can protect themselves by stealing stinging cells from jellyfish and reusing them. Some may pull out ink or slime to scare off attackers. And then there are those who cut off their heads. Elysia marginata is a type of sea slug that thinks nothing of losing its head, or rather its entire body. This sea slug usually feeds on algae. Instead of simply taking all the nutrients, the slugs can handle chloroplasts in algae and implanting them in their bodies. Slugs can absorb energy directly from the sun. But being slugs, they can't protect themselves from many other animals, including parasites. If a slug finds out that its body has been damaged by parasites, it can cut off its head. They cut off their heads and began to crawl around and continue to eat. In time, the slug regenerates a completely new body. The abandoned body does not die instantly and its heart continues to beat, but they have never been able to raise a new head. 9 sea cucumbers. Sea cucumbers can look like slugs and live in the sea but are not related to sea slugs. These animals often roam the seabed and feed on living things that fall to the ground. As they are just flesh tubes, they can be easy prey for other animals but have extraordinary defenses in the whole environment. When a sea cucumber is threatened, it can push its internal organs to create adhesive impurities that repel the invader through a process called evisceration. This protection also brings with it problems. Once their organs have been removed, the sea cucumber has no way of getting them back inside. If a sea cucumber wants to survive, it must grow back. And they can do this in just 1 to 5 weeks. Regardless of whether the sea cucumber has removed its organs from its mouth or behind, it begins to develop a completely new digestive tract from both ends until it finally meets the middle body. After making all this effort, the sea cucumber may have to do everything again if it is threatened and expel its intestines. 8 planets. End of planarian regeneration. In many cases, cutting in half is a major problem. Worms are fixed, but they simply remove you, in case they have a part with a vibrating head. If you cut the planarian in half, you end up with 2 of the same genetic worms that are not too bad to wear after a week of regeneration. A simple insect repellent that lives in water. It may be because of their simplicity that they can be separated and reborn successfully. It doesn't even matter if you cut it in half or from end to end, it will usually end up with happy larvae. They can be cut many times. Only 1/279th of the caterpillar can grow a completely new caterpillar. The real secret of the larval regenerative power lies in the stem cells of adults that make up 20% of their bodies. These cells retain the ability to make all kinds of new tissue during the life cycle of the caterpillar and therefore can replace anything lost, even the brain. Program planners may be trained to respond to certain tasks and seem to be able to remember this training, even if the educated brain is cut off. 7 small mouse skin renewal bonus. Ashley Seifert. Mammals are not known for their ability to regenerate themselves. When they are injured, they tend to cool slowly and often with the weight of red tissue as a result. One group of rats came from Africa but seem to have made a way to avoid this scourge. Smaller mice are smaller and weaker creatures. Strong hair on their coats can block other creatures, but not many. It is there that they are caught by the hunter, where they show off their special talent. They have skin that breaks easily, and as soon as it is caught, it slips away. The hunter is left with a mouth full of fur and skin, while the mouse runs and stays for another day. Unless the runaway mouse loses most of its skin. In a short time, the partner with the mouse regains its skin, including hair follicles, sweat glands, and other parts that are often destroyed in cracks. Scientists hope that the genetic engineering used by spiny mice to regenerate tissues can be replicated in humans at some point. 6 sponges. Few animals can enjoy being pushed through a sieve or blended, but with sponges, just 1 day on board. Sea sponges are among the simplest animals in the world. They have no circulatory, nervous, or digestive systems. Their cells are divided and can change into many types at some point in life. But sponges have one major deception that allows them to grow. When you break a sponge into cells, the other cells will reunite. When cell groups have the right types of cells, they will be able to grow into a full sponge. If you break two sponges and mix their cells together, the cells from each individual are able to identify their own and will separate themselves. This ability to regenerate fragments is useful in the ocean, where the fragments may be broken by the action of the waves. Small sponge pieces can then be moved to new locations and set up at home there. 5. Tails of the lizard. How does a salamander lose its tail? Autotomy is the procedure in which an animal cuts off one of its body parts. This is usually done to help the animal escape the invader, and one of the most famous, and worst, examples is the lizards that cut their tails. Lice are hunters, so they have to go out looking for their prey, but this exposes them to other animals. If the lizard is caught in the head or body, then there is not much they can do to escape, but if the animal bites its tail, the lizard can get a chance. Many lizards have some weak spots on the tail that can reduce energy by tightening their muscles. This separates the tail, spinal cord, and everything. The tail then falls off, giving the lizard a chance to escape. Some lizards' tails have been cut off and continue to swarm to disturb their predators. The lizard that survives tail loss can grow another tail in a few months. This new tail is often different from the original in that the fallen bones do not return to normal but are replaced by cartilage. 4 horns. Several species of mammals, such as deer and elk, grow in pairs. This can serve a variety of purposes. Men raise horns to help them fight their rivals for the right to reproduce with women, but they can also be used to fight predators and snow-covered for food. The moose can also use its large horns to help them hear. But most people don't realize that many horns come back every year, and it's a bloody business. In the spring, the male deer shed their old and new horns and begin to grow. New horns sprout from the skeletal bones of the skull and can grow very rapidly. The new horns are covered with soft wool known as velvet. Inside this velvet are blood vessels that feed the growing horns with the nutrients they need. In adulthood, the horn of the horn is replaced by bone and velvet falls in a bloody mass. It seems that the ability of the horns to regenerate themselves completely after shedding is due to the type of old animal cell that is unfamiliar to mammals. 3. Starfish. Starfish are complex animals with simple physiques. Most have a central disc with 5 or more arms protruding from it. Underneath the arms is a tube-shaped structure that allows the starfish to move and search for food. The arms of starfish, however, are weak enough and are responsible for injury or breach. What happens then is that the starfish then grows a new limb, or the amputated arm grows a new starfish. If the split arm contains at least part of the central disc, then it will be able to enlarge the new body. Most of the time a starfish will lose one of its arms if attacked. Sometimes the starfish cuts off its arm to try to escape. If it is removed from there, then it is possible to take part of the central disc far away. If the attacker does not eat the amputated arm, he will kick away to try to survive another day with his new body. Sometimes a young starfish may decide to overbreed. After that, it will break in two. Each section will retrieve its missing parts and the 2 copies will go their separate ways. 2. Hydra. How it regenerates. Hydras all over its body. Hydra is a small aquatic living creature with a simple structure. They have a head with sharp cords and a foot that they can attach to solid objects. They make a living by catching prey in their tents and forcing themselves into their stomachs. Once their food has been digested, the hydra will push the residue out of their mouths as they do not have a lump. That may not sound like a lot of life, but hydra seems to be taking full advantage of it. It may not die. If you take a hydra and cut it in half, and each half is regenerated into a small hydra. If you cut them into many pieces, you may end up with many hydrae. This is because most of the hydra is made up of stem cells, each with the ability to grow into a completely new hydra. As long as the hydra protein skeleton components survive the cut, then the body can completely change. Hydra cells also explain their immortality. Throughout their lives, their stem cells reproduce themselves. As long as the hydra is in a good and safe place, it will never wear out. 1. Axolotls. Axolotls are masters of regeneration. Regeneration is a common trick in many living things but very rarely in vertebrates, but one, the axolotl, is its master. These amphibians can regenerate organs, heal spinal cords, regenerate their tails, and parts of the heart and eyes. Their wonderful renewal skills have made them a physical model for scientists. When other substances return to the body, part of the body, the implant may not be as good as before. In axolotls, the regenerated tissue is inseparable from the original. Axolotls are able to do this by picking up mature tissue such as blood and tissue around the cut point and returning it to isolated cells such as stem cells. Stem cells then grow as if they were growing with a newborn axolotl. And they can do this at any time. If you were a ruthless researcher, you could continue cutting your axolotl leg permanently and you would always grow. The only thing that axolotls can regenerate is their natural environment. Today they are found in a few places near Mexico City.